We are just not buying that this was a technical decision by a Hong Kong immigration official. This was a deliberate choice by the government to release a fugitive despite a valid arrest warrant, and that decision unquestionably has a negative impact on the U.S.-China relationship.
We were asking the United States government for further important information on the case, and there was no legal basis to stop Mr. Snowden from leaving Hong Kong. This is a good example to illustrate one country, two systems, Hong Kong people ruling Hong Kong, and the high degree of autonomy that we have.
We're following all the appropriate legal channels and working with various other countries to make sure that rule of law is observed. And beyond that, I'll refer to the Justice Department that has been actively involved in the case.
A lot of people that don't like the United States, not news here, but the U.S. government expected these countries to comply with requests to help, and they haven't.
Charles.
You know, the fact that people don't like the United States is not new. What's new is that these non-likers have no respect for the United States. As Jason indicates, nobody worries or cares about what Obama says because it carries no weight. We heard Jay Carney say, what did he say? This would unquestionably have a negative impact on U.S.-Chinese relations. Do you think anybody, Beijing, cares about that or believes that? Is there any evidence? Remember how the president said, we're going to hold accountable those who killed our ambassador in Libya. We're going to hold accountable the authorities in Syria who have killed so many of their own people. He's talked 100 times about holding X or Y or Z accountable. Nobody's held accountable, and everyone knows that. The Washington Post, in their news story today, spoke about Snowden eluding the grasp of the normally long arm of U.S. justice. If there's no element of respect or fear, and you saw it in the summit with the head of the United States and head of Russia and China within the last 2 weeks, they care nothing for what Obama says, and they know that when he makes a threat, it carries no weight behind it.
The fact that these programs have been revealed, and if he was going to give anything more to the Chinese or the Russians, I think they already have it in hand.
I think Snowden was revealing when he said early on in the saga, a couple of days ago as he was leaving, or apparently before he left Hong Kong, he was looking for a democratic country. So China, Russia, presumably Cuba, perhaps Ecuador. I have a suggestion. How about trying the United States? It's a democratic country.
If this amendment is passed, even though there may be people who vote against the overall bill, voting for this amendment strengthens the bill such that if we pass it, we have a bill, in my opinion, that meets the test of the American people. We're securing the border, but we're allowing those people at the back of the line to have some pathway to continue to live the American dream.
I think the bill was in big trouble last week as a result of its failure to live up to the promises that the Gang of Eight had made, and I think this amendment will also suffer from credibility problems.
Charles, your thoughts on this amendment? It looks like it's going to pass. Supporters want to get to 70 to kind of have a big number. What do you think?
Right, a big number to overawe the House and to force it to ultimate signature on the president's desk. But look, I think the problem with the Corker Amendment is this. It's a shock and awe approach. It throws everything at the problem. Tons of money, 20,000 new border agents. It does all that, but it does not make the enforcement and the success in enforcement a requirement. And that's the problem. If it's a goal, it'll be exactly like the goals that we had in 1986 that gave us the problem today. Look, everybody who's supporting the bill is citing the CBO estimate about how it's going to increase our economy, how it's going to give money essentially also to the government. But also in the CBO report is an assumption that under the bill, in 10 years, we're going to have another 5 million illegals, which means that we will reach the 11 million in less time than it took from the last amnesty to get the current 11 million. And unless you've got something, so if you're admitting that, what you're saying is enforcement really is simply a fig leaf. It looks as if you're doing a lot, but there's no guarantee. And without it, without a statement that you do not get a green card and citizenship unless the border is closed, all you have are promises and a lot of inputs. You've got to have the output.
And this bill is emphasizing border security at the expense of doing things that we know work because they've worked in the past.
But Jason, if the reason that the fencing and all that hasn't worked is because if you stop them here, they're going to go in there, well, then you fence the there. You fence the entire southern border. Well, we have not. The border is 2,000 miles. We have exactly 350 of them, and 90% of that is a single strand, which has no effect.
We fence the popular corridors.
36 miles of double fencing of a 2,000-mile border. We have never had a barrier that was ever tested.
Well, let me
This amendment says it would double the 350 miles of pedestrian fencing already deployed to 700 miles of fencing along the border.
That single strand, which does not work.
This has been a Sunfish production.